Okay, let's go back in time. The date is March 14th, 1857. The place, Richmond, Virginia. On this day, a single human being was sold for a price so unbelievably high, it just shattered every record and frankly, defied all logic. This is a historical mystery that was deliberately buried, and today, we're gonna dig it up.
So let's just start with the number. $378,000. That's the modern-day equivalent of what she was sold for. Now, just to put that into perspective for you, you could have bought an entire plantation, I'm talking land, buildings, even a dozen other enslaved workers, for less than that. So what on earth made this one person so incredibly valuable?
Those were the words of the auctioneer, a guy named Thomas Fairmont, who was known for being just ruthless and efficient. But on this day, even he seemed a little shaken. He was about to present a lot that would become this scar on the city's memory. The sale was so shocking that people who were there claimed men literally fainted when the final price was called.
So yeah, the big question is, how did the bidding ever reach such an impossible astronomical price?
Well, she was presented simply as Lot 37. The auctioneer announced she had no recorded name, no documented skills, no history of labor, her hands were smooth. By every single standard of the time, she should have been worth very, very little. And yet, the bidding was set to open at a staggering $5,000.
The reason for that price tag came from a sworn statement that the auctioneer read out loud. It claimed Lot 37 possessed knowledge of significant value, and this was supposedly verified by witnesses. The buyer, he said, would get a sealed letter with instructions on how to extract this knowledge. But here's the kicker. It came with a warning that force would be useless. The crowd was baffled. They were angry, and you can bet they were completely captivated.
The bidding was absolutely frenzied, and it ended at a shocking $20,000, or $378,000. But you see, as soon as the sale was over, the mystery only got deeper. A coordinated effort began almost immediately to erase the entire event from history.
And that cover-up? It started with the official record. When a clerk later examined Thomas Fairmont's ledger, he found that 7 pages, the exact pages of the sale, had been meticulously cut out with a razor. Somebody wanted this transaction to completely disappear. And the buyer? He was just as mysterious. He paid with a bank draft from a totally fake company, listing an address of a warehouse that had been abandoned for 7 years. After the sale, he and Lot 37 just vanished.
So about 6 weeks later, a reporter named Charles Whitfield starts digging into this. He's hitting nothing but dead ends until an anonymous letter shows up. It read, "The knowledge she carries could redraw maps. Stop searching." Well, 3 days after he published a very cautious article about the sale, Whitfield vanished too.
And just like that, the trail went cold for decades. It was completely buried by the Civil War and the simple passage of time. It wasn't until 1891 that a historian named Margaret Holloway stumbled upon a cryptic reference to the sale and decided to start her own investigation. Holloway started with that damaged ledger. She couldn't read the missing pages, obviously, but by holding the book up to the light, she could see the faint imprints left from the pen on the pages underneath. Ridgeline, coal seam, geological terms. That led her to a land purchase by a mysterious J. Marlowe, a deed that also mentioned limestone and a coal seam. The clues weren't about a person's skills, they were about the earth itself. So Holloway tracks down the property and finds a local guide whose father had actually worked for this Marlowe guy. And the story he told was just incredible. He said Marlowe would bring this woman to a site. She would just point and then tell the workers exactly where to dig. The guide's father's words were chillingly simple. She was never wrong.
This was the key. This was the moment. Holloway now understood the nature of the knowledge that Lot 37 possessed, but she still needed to know, how was it even possible? And more importantly, who was she? She had to find her name.
The breakthrough came from an old field journal. Holloway found the writings of a really respected geologist, William Barton Rogers, from back in 1847, a full 10 years before the auction. And in it, he wrote about an enslaved woman on his survey team who, even though she was illiterate, had an unexpected facility for geological observation. And then he wrote down her name, Anna. You see, Rogers suspected that Anna had what we now call an eidetic memory, or a photographic memory. It's like she could see a rock formation one time and then recognize a similar one miles away, just absorbing all this complex geology visually.
Through her work on that survey, she gained an education that was not only completely illegal for an enslaved person, but also incredibly valuable.
An eyewitness later confirmed these were the only words Anna ever spoke at the auction. As she was being led away, she turned to the crowd and delivered this line. Now that wasn't a plea. Oh no. It was a statement of fact. It was a promise of a debt that would, one day, be collected.
And you better believe she made sure that debt was collected. After the Civil War and Emancipation, Anna reappears in the historical record not as a victim, but as the agent of her own precise and absolutely devastating justice. So here's how she did it. It's brilliant. In 1869, the man who bought her, James Pritchard, hired a geological consultant, not even recognizing that it was Anna. She gave him a perfectly accurate survey identifying these massive coal seams, but she left out one tiny, crucial detail. The coal was contaminated with worthless sulfur. Pritchard invested his entire fortune based on her report and was completely financially destroyed. But wait, what about that sealed letter from the auction? Well, decades later, researchers finally found the truth. And get this, it wasn't instructions from the seller at all. It was a warning dictated by Anna herself. It was her condition for the sale. She would only share her knowledge if she was treated with respect, and it ended with a threat. You will find that knowledge can be a weapon. And this really just puts it all into perspective. Pritchard paid $20,000 for Anna. He made millions from her knowledge. But in the end, that exact same knowledge cost him absolutely everything. The payment, beyond gold, was delivered in full.
Anna's story was so close to being lost forever, just surviving in these little fragments, missing pages, an old man's memory, a geologist's private journal. It just makes you wonder, right? How many other Annas are out there? How many stories of brilliance and resistance are still buried, just waiting for someone to start digging?